This is Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. Part 5, Chapter 18. Levin couldn't bear to look at his brother, couldn't even feel at ease in his presence. When he came into the sick man's room, his eyes and his motions entirely absorbed him, and he didn't see and he didn't realize his frightful situation. He was now struck with the uncleanliness and disorder of the room, and the bad air which oppressed them, and the sick man's groans, and it seemed to him there was no hope. It didn't occur to him to investigate how his poor limbs were lying under the coverlid, to try to comfort him materially, and if he could not improve his condition, at least to make the best of a bad situation. The mere thought of these details made a cold chill run down his back, and the sick man, feeling instinctively that his brother was powerless to help him, was irritated. So Levin kept leaving the room under various pretexts and coming back again, unhappy to be with his brother, still more unhappy to be away from him, and unable to stay alone by himself. Kitty saw these things under a very different light. As soon as she came near the dying man, she was filled with pity for him, and instead of feeling fear or repulsion, her womanly heart moved her to seek every means of ameliorating his sad condition. Convinced that it was her duty to help him, she didn't doubt the possibility of making him more comfortable, and she set herself to work without delay. The details which repelled her husband were the very ones which attracted her attention. She sent for a doctor, she sent to the drugstore, she set her maid and Marya Nikolaevna to sweeping, washing, and dusting, and she even helped them herself. She had all the needless articles carried away, and she had them replaced by things that were needed, without minding those whom she met on the way. She came and went from the room to her brother-in-law's, unpacking the articles that were necessary: cloths, pillowcases, towels, and nightshirts. The waiter who served the table d'hôte dinner several times came with surly face when she rang, but she gave her orders with such gentle authority that he never failed to execute them. Levin didn't approve of all the commotion. He didn't see any reason for it, and he was afraid of worrying his brother. But Nikolai remained calm and indifferent, albeit somewhat confused, and followed with his eyes the young woman's movements. When Levin came back from the doctor's, he saw, on opening the door, that they were changing the sick man's linen. His enormous back and stooping shoulders, his prominent ribs were all uncovered, while Marya Nikolaevna and the maid were in great perplexity over the sleeves of Nikolai's nightshirts, into which they were vainly striving to get his long, thin arms. Kitty quickly closed the door without looking at her brother-in-law, but he groaned, and she hastened to him. "Be quick," she said. "Don't come near me," muttered the sick man angrily. "I'll put it on myself." "What do you say?" asked Marya. But Kitty heard and understood that he was ashamed of being found in such a state. "I'm not looking," said she, trying to get his arm into the nightshirt. "Marya Nikolaevna, you go to the other side of the bed to help us. Go and get a little flask out of my bag and bring it to me," she said to her husband. "In the meantime, we'll finish fixing him." When Levin came back with the flask, the invalid was lying down in bed, and everything about him had assumed a different appearance. Instead of the stuffy air which they were breathing before, Kitty was perfuming the room with aromatic vinegar from an atomizer. The dust was all gone, the carpet was spread under the bed, on a little table were arranged the medicine vials, a carafe, the necessary linen, and Kitty's English embroidery. On the other table near the bed stood a candle, his medicine and powders. The sick man, bathed with smoothly brushed hair, lying between clean sheets and propped up by several pillows, was dressed in a clean nightshirt, the white collar of which came around his extraordinarily long, thin neck. A new expression of hope shone in his eyes as he looked at Kitty. The doctor whom Levin found at the club was not the one who had vexed Nikolai. He came and carefully sounded the sick man's lungs, raised his head, wrote a prescription, and gave the explicit directions about the application of his remedies and about his nourishment. He offered fresh eggs, almost raw, and seltzer water with milk heated to a certain temperature. After he was gone, the sick man said a few words to his brother, only the last words of which were audible: "Your Katya." But by his face Levin knew that he had said something in her praise. Then he called Katya, as he had named her. "I feel much better," he said to her. "With you I should get well. Everything's so nice now." He tried to lift his sister-in-law's hand to his lips, but fearing that it might be unpleasant to her, he contented himself with caressing it. Kitty pressed his hand affectionately between her own. "Now turn me over on my left side, and all of you go to bed." Kitty alone understood what he said, because she was near him. "Turn him on his side," she said to her husband. "He always sleeps on that side. I cannot do it myself, and I should not like to leave it to the man. Can you lift him?" she asked of Marya Nikolaevna. "I'm afraid not," she replied. Levin, though terrified at the thought of lifting his frightful body under his coverlid, submitted to his wife's influence, and put his arm around the invalid with the resolute air she knew so well. The great weight of these emaciated limbs surprised him, while he was with difficulty changing his brother's position. Nikolai threw his arms around his neck, and Kitty quickly turned the pillows so as to make the bed more comfortable. Nikolai kept one of his brother's hands in his and drew it towards him. Levin's heart failed him when he felt him put it to his lips to kiss it. He let him do so, however. Then, shaken with sobs, he hurried from the room without being able to utter a word.